Do you often find yourself questioning how to do basic life skills every day that you should probably know by now? Well, this podcast is for you, me, and everyone else who doesn't have a clue on how to live this human life on this confusing planet. I'm Chez, your host for the How Do You Even Human podcast, and I'm so excited because this is the first episode! Woo! But before we get into that, I'm just going to explain what the podcast is and how you can listen to it for all the people out there who are new to podcasts. So, a podcast is a digital audio file that you can download so you can listen to it on the go. Whether you're in the car or when you're doing your daily chores, you can listen to it without Wi-Fi or data because you can download it. And in the recent years, there has been a rise of vodcasts, so that's what I'm doing right now. Actually, I have both a video version and an audio version of this podcast, so you can check me out on YouTube or Spotify. Okay, so for today's podcast, we are going to talk about my 3+1 tips on how to be a better human while in quarantine. And I know you're thinking, you're probably like, oh my gosh, I don't have the time for that stuff. I can't give effort for that self-improvement stuff. And it's okay, I totally understand. However, the tips that I'm going to give you are going to make your life a little bit easier. I live by the saying, work smart, not hard. And the tips I'm going to give you aren't the usual ones like wake up earlier so you have more time for yourself or exercise more for an endorphin rush. It's helpful, however, some of these tips aren't fit for the lifestyle of lazy but busy people like me. Yes, we exist. So the tips I'm going to give you are gonna be less time consuming and you can do it in your own pace. And stay till the end because my +1 tip is the most important and helpful one. Okay. The first tip I have for you is to learn how the human mind and behavior works. Basically, psychology. And you don't have to study it in the academic or rigid sense. You just have to know the very, very, very core of the human so that you can understand and manage your emotions, thoughts, motivations, and needs even more. And how you can learn about psychology, the basics at least, is through Crash Course, and they have this playlist called Psychology. And I'm sure this YouTube channel is very familiar to all the high school and college students who crammed studying for a test until 2 a.m. Yes, we've all been there. And what I love about Crash Course is that they can explain such complex and complicated concepts in such a simplistic and easy to process way. Because they make it so fun and relatable that you actually have an idea on how to apply it in your real life. They explain basic concepts such as memory, ego, cognitive dissonance, motivation, personality, emotion, stress, mental health, mental disorders, social psychology, and other stuff to let you know how you can manage your thoughts and emotions more. And another YouTube channel that I can suggest to you is the Practical Psychology and their playlist Personality Psychology. Personality is already touched upon by Crash Course, but then this one goes in depth more to the theory, so you can use it as like a supplementary resource. And they explain theories that can really help you on understanding why and how you react to certain situations and what are your tendencies when it comes to your personality. They explain theories like trait theory, nature versus nurture, self actualization, psychoanalysis, the nine intelligences, defense mechanisms, and more to know more how you react and act in the daily interactions and situations you face in your daily life. The next tip that I have for you is to learn how humans communicate. Communication. We are the best and worst at it when it comes to all the species in the world, especially Gen Z people. We can bully a corrupt politician on Twitter, but we cannot tell the waiter that they gave us the wrong order, right? And how you can study or at least learn a little bit about communication, there's another YouTube channel that I'll suggest to you. It's Charisma on Command, and I've been binge watching it for the past week. However, I don't recommend their relationship advice because I personally don't agree with it. However, I love their analysis on celebrity interviews and talk show interviews because they break down each aspect on why celebrities such as Emilia Clarke, Keanu Reeves, Oprah, Graham Norton are so likable and magnetic and charismatic to the public eye. Charisma on Command dabbles more on the conversational side of communication, your everyday interactions. But for the more academic and workplace setting type of communication, speeches, presentations, there's this podcast that I've also been binge listening for the past week. It's the Think Fast, Think Smart podcast. It's a podcast by the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And I love that podcast because they can give you such concrete techniques and strategies that you can directly implement into your presentations, speeches, that after listening to an episode, you'll go like, wow, I could give a speech right now because their suggestions, their strategies are super legit. And it gave me so much confidence that I had the courage to start this podcast. So I hope you can listen to that podcast. And under communication, what you can study is the basics of marketing. If you have a business or an organization, a cause, or advocacy that you want to promote, it's really good to get a grasp of the basics of marketing. So you don't have to play the guessing game every time you need to post something on social media or you need to produce content for a campaign that you have. It's really helpful. I find it really helpful because I do a lot of marketing work in my organizations. So, yeah, it's just really helpful when it comes to knowing how people get influenced. If you made it this far into the podcast, thank you. And now you're probably wondering, why should I care? Like, we're all gonna die in the end anyways. And let me tell you something that I read from Psychology Today, and I love it. They wrote an article entitled, Caring for Others is what made our species, the human species, unique. And it's this care that we were able to build such complex and grand societies that we have today, whether it's good or bad. And the study of societies is called sociology. So that is my third tip, is to learn more about sociology. Actually, I was debating whether my third tip would be philosophy or sociology. However, it's quarantine, so I need to think about if the topic is interesting. So I ask myself, which is more fun? with psychology, it was a given because, mental health and knowing my thoughts more, knowing the psyche and how I think and how I can manage those thoughts and emotions, it was a given. It made me understand myself more. And for communication, I'm kind of biased because I'm a speech communication student. And really, learning about communication is so fun. And I just love the power of communication to influence and persuade and to connect with people. And then with philosophy, I was like, the more I think about these transcendent, meaningful stuff, I get deep into my mind, and for some reason, I become more apathetic to what's happening around me because I'm all in my head. And honestly, I really want to enjoy and relate to the physical human world that's happening right now. That's why I chose sociology. And I'm actually kind of biased because I was a humanities and social sciences student back in senior high school. And just studying about the social sciences, it just opened my mind so much because I was kind of a sheltered girl. And I just my eyes opened to everything that's been happening with society and how and why they were built like that. And I was just sad because, like, the other classes didn't have that subject. And honestly, sociology, the social science, makes you a kinder and more understanding person. What's the point of learning the quadratic formula if you're not a kind person, right? So, how you can actually learn about sociology. Crash Course also has a playlist about it. Some of their some of their videos though are kind of US centric. So if you're not from the US, you can just skip those episodes. With sociology, you'll learn theories like structural functionalism, conflict theory, symbolic interactionism, my personal favorite. And these theories really help you get a grasp on why and how people interact the way they do and the meaning behind it. And in the greater scheme of things, how societies are built like that. Like what events led to this, and it's just great. I love sociology. And another way to study society, because obviously it's around us, we live in a society, it's through media and art. There's tons of books, films like Parasite. Fun fact, Bong Joon-ho was actually a sociology major. Theater shows, TV shows like Avatar The Last Airbender. Shout out to that story. And I just love the social commentary of that show. It talks about war, genocide, imperialism in a kids' show. That's how powerful these social issues are. And another way is through documentaries. There's tons on Netflix. And through TED Talks. Yes, TED Talks. Oh my gosh. Every time I watch a TED Talk, I'm just like, I want to be a better person. Does anyone else get that feeling after watching a TED Talk? And that's all my 3 tips. I'll give you a recap. It's psychology, communication, and sociology. But remember that I told you that I still have that +1 tip, the most important and helpful one? So my last tip for you is to learn about yourself. Because by learning about yourself, you understand more what it's like to be human. You defined what being a better person is, and what does being successful mean in life. You determine what you like about yourself and what you need to improve on. Because honestly, there's no ultimate perfect human being. Ultimately, it's you who define who you want to be and how you want to be better, right? The more you accept and learn about yourself, the more you become an understanding person. And the more you become an understanding person, you become kinder to yourself and the people around you. So how can you learn about yourself? I'll be giving you two ways, huh? First is through self-reflection, through journaling. Honestly, the structured type of journaling doesn't work on me. I just don't have the time for it sometimes, and I can't fill it out for some reason. But there's this type of journaling that I learned from an acting class back in August, wherein you just dump everything that you need, that's in your head. You know, all the thoughts that clouding your mind, just dump it until you run out, or you can time yourself for 5 to 15 minutes, and then by journaling through dumping everything that's in your brain, you can process those thoughts and emotions better, and you can learn like, oh wow, so that's how I was feeling at this time, and okay, so that's how I react to this situation. Okay, so these are my tendencies when it comes to these situations, and so these are my personalities, all that stuff that you can learn about yourself. If you're not the journaling type, which personally I am not too, there's tons of personality tests online, and I mean tons. And no, I am not talking about the BuzzFeed tests. Sure, it's pretty cool to know what Disney princess you are. Personally, I'm Mulan. Let's go, women empowerment and Asian representation. However, it doesn't really go deep into who you are and what's in your psyche and all that stuff. There's legit psychology based online personality tests like MBTI, the Myers-Briggs, that's what it's called. Shout out to all the INTJs out there. I love you guys. And there's also the learning style quiz. After I learned that I was a kinesthetic learner, I know now that I should experience and do things so I can learn them faster. And it's really convenient to know what's your learning style so that you can absorb, process, and do things much faster. You know, work smart, not hard. And now you're probably overwhelmed by all the information that I dumped to you. Honestly, there's a lot. That's why I made this podcast. It's for you guys to learn what it's like to be human and how do you even human. We'll talk about things like basic life skills on topics like how to initiate a conversation or how to manage your time so you have more work-life balance, or how to do your taxes, I guess, because unfortunately that's a life skill when I searched on Google. And I'll be inviting guests to talk about things that I don't know about, like doing my taxes. I have no clue about that. See, like in this podcast, we're going to talk about what it's like to be human and how can you better yourself as a human. The bottom line is that to be a better human, we need to be more understanding of ourselves and of others. This is the How Do You Even Human podcast, and we will be chatting again in the next episode. Goodbye or whatever.